chillin'. Glad it hunted and comfy to see you. This your day. We white corner a Johnny. Well, good afternoon. It's so glad that Hunter chillin' to join we for this your first episode of Sustainin Gullah Geechee culturally. We're so glad that you to zoom in with we. This year the Queen Quet head upon the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation. So glad that Hunter tuning in with we for this year journey. Now, many of Hunter children with DL Chona might not realize what this month of. Well, let's take a close look. This is actually Black Music Month. So the irony of this being Black Music Month for 2020 is that it's not only during a pandemic, but it is reminiscent of a lot of what we have commemorated as well as celebrated in the Gullah Geechee Nation in terms of our story. Having to literally march the roads, march the streets with drums beating loudly, crying, liberty, liberty, liberty. Yet and still, as far as we've come, we haven't yet moved forward in North America. So before we get going fully with my first guest for zooming in on Gullah Geechee, cultural heritage and sustainability, I want us to take a moment of silence for Ahmaud Arbery, who is a native Gullah Geechee who was murdered, for Breonna Taylor, and for George Floyd. These brothers and their sisters' souls cannot rest peacefully until there is justice and equity, and we can find a way to sustain it. Ashe, ashe, ashe. So because it is Black Music Month, we always celebrate this thing right here in the Gullah Geechee Nation. Y'all, yeah, did this before now. Well, I know we ancestors couldn't have still right here anything like that. That true, all it been true without the drum. Even in 1739, they tried to thief them from we. Oh, buddy, right here, you see. So we still hold on them, and they still hold on who we be. From Jacksonville, North Kakalaki, Jacksonville, Florida, on all these your sea islands, and 30 to 35 miles inland to St. John's River. This year, they're the Gullah Geechee Nation. So I brought in someone from All Mobile Productions. And turn it up. Y'all may be quite familiar with it because you may have seen that link at gullahgeechee.tv and seen many of the episodes of actually our annual celebration, the Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival, which he helped me co-found here in the Gullah Geechee Nation. Now, y'all might wonder how come we don't have two screens up. We only need one because we're in the same place. We're here where we founded that festival. We're here on historic St. Helena Island. We've been quarantined since March together. That's why you don't see masks, okay? So we wear masks everywhere else we go right about now. We'd encourage you also to do so. But we don't want to mask our culture and our community. So I asked Brother Kwame Shah to join me today, and we're going to get him in here on the screen with me, and so that you all can see we're right here in the midst of this sustainability journey. How I wanted to do, Kwame Shah?
I'm doing well, Queen, doing well.
We got to get you still, though, so that you can be seen clearly by the folk. Yes, and we want to definitely let y'all know how important it is, this broadcast today, because although Kwame and I are here on St. Helena Island in the Gullah Geechee Nation, the broadcast is actually being carried out for us by Dr. Kate Derrickson at the University of Minnesota, who's one of our members of the Gullah Geechee Sustainability Think Tank. And she was one of the visionaries behind a program that I'm involved in called CREATE. And so we thought it was very apropos to have this being done. But as we planned it, we had no idea of how much the visuals, the optics around the world were going to be images of Black people in the street marching together. The only thing missing are drums in their hands. But we know that over the generations, that drum has been what sounded for us to get civil rights done, for us now in the human rights movement. We're so thankful to the family in Mother Africa who are out in the streets, who are also protesting that Black Lives Matter, because of course, we're their family, they're our kinfolk. But now many people don't realize, Brother Kwame Shah, that there's more to Black folks and music than just festivals. Because we know that's what a lot of people are missing right now. It's summertime. Folks are used to going out to parks and places and partying. And I know you DJ'd, you drummed, you've done all that. But what would you say to people about the real value of music to people of African descent in terms of sustaining themselves spiritually and sustaining culture?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. And once again, we definitely ask for God's blessing for those spirits of the past, unnaturally and unjustly. As far as Black, or I should say African music and the spirituality that it continues to sustain, you have to remember that the first instrument was the voice.
Yes.
The first instrument was the voice. The next instrument was the drum.
Mm-hmm.
And then consequently all the other instruments, all the other tools that we call instruments that were able to emit tones,
Mm-hmm.
sounds, which are nothing more than certain frequencies, vibrations.
Right.
The African science of spirituality understood that those vibrations tapped into different parts of your spiritual being.
Right, absolutely.
So the chants that we would do, that you hear within the Yoruba, within the Akan, within the Kemetic, we call them words of power.
Right.
In different keys, key signatures, again, to evoke and to uplift and to sustain the inner spirit.
Absolutely.
Now you can now translate that into whatever you do physically, whatever you do anywhere in the mundane
or day-to-day routine, more than
exactly.
say a mundane, but
right.
day-to-day routine.
Right.
So, for instance, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, but we. And before we be on a slaves, we going be buried we graves and going home to we God and be free. We often may change the cadence of that to oh, freedom, oh, freedom. Oh, freedom, oh, but we. And before we be on our slaves, we gonna be buried we graves and going home to we God and be free. Now, many people have heard me sing that song in many, many places. One of the songs I used to also sing, because when you say words of power, people do not realize that you speak things into existence. So therefore, the power emits from within. That's why our traditional music in the Gullah Geechee Nation is the spiritual. It's your spirit being put forth, but it's God's spirit coming within that's pushed outward. And so that is what leads the beat. So even when we talk about the civil rights movement in America, many of the leaders of the civil rights movement were from and came to the Gullah Geechee Nation, including Dr. Martin Luther King, God bless the dead, and then took the songs into the streets, into the roads, marched with people, marched on the journey to say, well, this is what we're here to do. So they evoke the power of any given moment as they marched, as they sang, as they beat the drum, as they locked arms. You know, that power was there. So what I'm missing and what I'm seeing today is that power going forward. I'm seeing that a lot of our younger people want to forsake the spirituals. Many only want to play an African drum at a dance class. What would you say to them in terms of what you just said a little while ago, your day-to-day routine, and how important it is to maintain that connection with the Most High through the chants, which we don't call them chants. We simply sing the spiritual scene. A chant would be more like this. Around here, that people call humming. Anybody, any 100 children who've been to we church and things like that, they read what's the praise house, 100 know how to talk about. Okay, then. When we go into that, it usually is a collective thing, just like how call and response is collective. What is it that you would say to younger people who don't really, they haven't grown up in that generation of call and response? They may not realize how important it is and how you bring that which is not seen into the realm of the seen. You see, when something is not there, you suddenly can bring it into existence with you if you invoke those words of power.
Well, it unfortunately would have to be a serious process. Part of the process has to start with the education of the youth in regards to what took place in the past, what took place during the civil rights movement, even what took place during Reconstruction, when we were in a position to teach ourselves, to educate ourselves. You found that music was a core part of your education. You know, when you look at the so-called freedmen schools, when you talk about Penn Center, when you talk about Piney Woods, Mississippi, you know, those schools.
And freedmen schools versus freedom schools.
Right.
All right, because freedmen schools were in the 1860s. Freedom schools were in the 1960s.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you look at those schools, music was a core part of the education.
Curriculum. Yeah.
Because again, they were spiritually based.
Yes.
They were Christian based.
Yes.
So you had to learn those spirituals.
Yeah.
You had to learn how to play them, which meant not just playing by ear. You had to learn how to read music.
Which was hymns. Usually hymns they tried to teach you at those schools. Spirituals came from the community.
So you had to learn how to play an instrument. You know, I can talk about how my mother in Piney Woods learned to play several instruments, but stuck to one instrument, two instruments in particular. But that was a core part of it.
Yes.
So now you understood the value of learning music, creating music.
Creating. There's that word again. There's that word again. Create.
Creating music.
Co-creator with God.
Learning how to sing, learning intonation, learning, again, to read and write music. Music is a language.
Right, it is.
What I call the supreme mathematical language.
Right. 360.
360. So now you're in a position to understand how songs in certain key signatures invoke that spiritual energy within.
Absolutely.
So,
and everybody can't carry that spiritual energy.
No.
Right.
There are those who are gifted. They learn to play by ear.
Right.
You take it a step further, like I always say, whatever craft it is that you want to do, just have enough respect for the craft to master it.
Absolutely.
Learn as much as you can about it.
Right. Don't be a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Right.
Right.
So now, if you combine the musical education with the historical education, then now you see the importance of music.
Absolutely.
I can recall class I took in college, which was talking about Black music, particularly jazz and so forth.
Interesting.
But we got a lot more Black history
in that class.
In that class, because the professor tied the music to the history, tied the music specifically during the civil rights struggle and so forth.
Very interesting, because a lot of people would say, well, I saw Ken Burns dance. I mean, what you talk about? Why was your class tied to Black history? Why was it tied to the Civil Rights Movement? Because a lot of people don't recognize the connection between jazz and blues and the spirituals.
Exactly.
Right. And that the spirituals, when we talk about chain gang songs, work songs,
call and response songs,
call and response, it all comes from call and response. Exactly. And that comes from that African drum tonality, African tradition of the gathering. The one sets the tone. Right. And the rest of us respond. So even with drums, doesn't that happen with drums? That does happen with drums, and I was about to say we could really get really deep into this, but I'm sure we have time. We got time limit. Yeah, we can go deep into the science of it. Yeah. But the combination of the rhythm and the key signature, puts one into that spiritual state. Some people call it trance. Right. But it puts you into that spiritual state where now you're communicating. Yeah. From on high. Absolutely. And that's wherein tongues can be invoked as well. So again, when we talk about the gifting or what we would say carrying the mantle, certain people go into that trance state during a shout. Right. Okay, that's why we constantly try to explain to many of my folks out here, what you see at these festivals is not shouting. Unless you've been to the Gullah Geechee Nation International Music and Movement Festival, and you saw a spontaneous outburst of people going into a circle and moving around. What you see at festivals on stage is ring play. That's not a ring shout. Big difference. That's a ring play, and it's called play because that's what's going on. They are playing a part to demonstrate something to you that it could look sort of like this. That's not how it happens in a praise house setting. That's not how it happens in a bush arbor setting. That's not happens when truly the Spirit of God is landing upon people and drawing them into this movement. That's why we don't call a shout dancing, because one of our traditions here in the Gullah Geechee Nation was to distinguish the shouting and what going on in the praise house from going to the juke joint. Okay, they ain't even want you to still be going to the juke joint and on top of you to shout. You supposed to unpick which one you to do, who you to serve. You understand? So a lot of people don't realize that is so valuable to us. And that's why it concerns me. A group of people called ethnomusicologists. It concerns me that within academic settings, people think they can just simply study music because they can read sheet music. And then that gives them kind of an authority or creative license to do different renditions of people's songs from different cultural communities without engaging the people of those cultural communities to really realize the meaning, value, proper intonations, proper inflections behind them. Right. So I've heard on PBS documentaries some very offensive stuff. I'll give you an example. Like I said, one of the songs that I used to sing was sometimes I feel like a motherless child, right? I don't know who would think that someone is a motherless child if you sing it. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, but I've heard that. Yeah, there's nothing. How in the world does that match that? Right. I mean, so again, when you talked about inflection and tone and reading music, all this came back to me. What would you say? Because we have an academic audience tuned in today. You know, we have people who are in the field studying Gullah Geechee culture tuned in watching this. And we'll have more when this is rebroadcast on Gullah Geechee TV, I'm sure. Right. What would you say to them if they're thinking they can just study folks' culture by tuning into their music and then dissecting it? Well, again, you're doing a disrespect to the people, in particular if those people are still alive and well. Right. You know, why not then, instead of you trying to interpret, why not then get the people themselves who are the custodians of the tradition to do it? Right. And again, you know, it's interesting you mentioned that. I listen to a lot of quote unquote house music. I love house music. And see, we can't see house music all night. On Zoom. House music all night long. House music all night long. I'm definitely house music all night long. Chi-town in the building. Yes, house music all night. Yeah, Paradise Garage, y'all. I know nothing about that. Yeah, right. I love all forms of music, but I'm definitely a house head. Yeah.
But I've watched and I've listened to different types of songs that were, remixed and redone into house.
Yeah, me too.
Sometimes it works.
Sometimes it doesn't.
A lot of times it doesn't, because like you said, the words and the tempo and or the key signature of a song now reflects or emits the energy.
The energy. Right.
Like you said, if you're singing about a motherless child,
right? Why are you dancing?
That's very somber.
Right.
Why is that
up tempo?
Clap your hands unless spin. It's nothing to spin
it's
around
nothing
about.
To spin around about.
That's something to sit around and think about and
ponder deeply.
Get that child and hug that child and emit some love to that child. Yeah,
right.
That's nothing to jump and celebrate.
Right.
So, again, that's someone else's interpretation or their own, like they say, like they have artistic license. And a lot of times your license now actually
need to be revoked.
Yeah. It turns around and destroys the whole culture. Meaning and the whole, energy behind what the culture has put into that song. That's why that culture created that song.
Absolutely. And it's a prime time, and we on this 6 minutes, Dougie, fresh you on, because we got about 6 minutes to go as quick as this went by, because you and I could talk about music and sing music and dance all day. But this is the thing. Let's give them this example of what happened in London, England. Sometime back.
When we were at the museum.
So we were actually in London, England, in the streets, like people are now, to commemorate the abolition of the British slave trade. Right. And many people may not realize, but the abolition of British slave trade happened in 1808. Right. Okay. And it did not then become law in the United States. Y'all know, right? Till when, right? So it had to be a war for it and all that kind of stuff. Kind of looked like what's going on now. Yeah. So here it is. We flew over to England. Was there for the interfaith pilgrimage, where people were there. People of various faiths were there, gathered. Various ethnic groups were gathered. It was one of the most beautiful things you ever want to see in your life. To see all the people together and hugging and embracing and walking arm in arm and just sharing in this moment to say we are here to call for the Church of England and England itself to apologize for enslavement. Right. And interestingly enough, we were there days before the march. Right. And we went around looking for newspapers. We watched television every night to see were they going to announce this march. They didn't. We sat around, we walked around the city, didn't see posters. We went in the British Museum. We're leaving out of the British Museum when I looked in a little crevice in between something, and there was a poster hidden in there saying that on that Sunday, which would have been the day after the march, they were going to have this whole day in commemoration of the abolition of British slave trade at the British Museum. We go there. This is the most Black Britons I ever saw in all my trips to England at all, to any part of England. This place was jam-packed, and that museum is huge. Google it. It is massive, and there are multiple floors. Yeah. We're in there running up and down the floors because every segment they say is going on is only lasting 15, 20 minutes, and they're like 10, 15 minutes apart to run through the museum to try to get to them. Right. One said it was about to shout. I said, who shout? What shout? Not we shout. And it, let we go see. We found out where the room was. We went running. We got downstairs.
Downstairs in the basement.
In the basement. Thought it would be in the big auditorium down there. The lady immediately did this. This is what she did. I said, Miss, I'm looking for this session. She went, didn't talk. Buckle lady did just like that, like get over there. And I was like, okay, what's that about? And I look, and where she points is a corner. It's a corner. In the basement. Maybe 20 chairs. Yeah. 20 chairs they might have had lined up in this corner. We saw a TV screen. This brother standing there. Well, fast forward. The brother does his session reading about what the shout is, reading about where the shout came from, reading that it was Blacks that did this in America. Blacks? Gullah Geechees that created that whole tradition. Yeah. What about the spirituals? I thought he gonna sing. I thought he gonna dance. He actually showed us a video to waltz to get that session started. Remember with everybody in powdered wigs and ball ground and the cakewalk, right? We were like, what? How does this have to do with the shout? So at the end he says, any questions? I said, yeah, question. I'm from the Gullah Geechee Nation. When are you going to shout? What did he do?
Jaw drop.
Okay.
Step aside.
No, didn't step aside until he said, well, I'm sure you could know how to do it. I said, and I do. This one moves his legs immediately over this way for me to come out into the aisle and come up front. And I said, well, I wasn't here to do your session, but the few people in the audience were like, please do. I get up, I start doing this and start singing. He starts doing it with me. As I start moving around, then he followed in a ring play.
Right.
All of a sudden, what happens to that corner, Kwame?
Standing room only.
From me singing and this clap, because this clap was loud.
Pull people from all over.
People poured into that corner so much so that even that woman that went came in that corner to see what was going on. That session was supposed to be 15, 20 minutes. That session itself lasted 45 minutes because it bumped almost right into the next session he was supposed to do.
Right.
He was supposed to have a half-hour break and everything, and it ran into it. And brothers and sisters, we were going to leave. And he said, oh, no, Queen, we have another session. Yeah. I said, we? So now I thought he was speaking French, and I was in yes, there's another session, but we mean, not me and you, but he did mean that. And so he and I did that session, and we actually did shout. We actually showed the people what the culture was about. And that's what we're doing these sessions for. And zooming in on Gullah Geechee cultural heritage sustainability. We thank you so much for tuning into the first one, but we're going to be here every Wednesday, 3 p.m. EST. Hunter can join me right here for sustaining the Gullah Geechee cultural heritage. Right here, we going to zoom in. In the meantime, I'm Queen Quet, Chiefess and Head of State for the Gullah Geechee Nation. You can find me at queenquet.com, QUENQUET.com, and you can find Kwame Shaw on Mobile Productions
at AMP Turn It Up at AOL.com. That's AMP AMP Turn It Up at AOL.com.
And also ampturnitup.com. All right, is for the website, and so you can also find us and more. And this broadcast will be shown on GullahGeechee.tv. That's our YouTube channel. Please go to it, sign up, subscribe, and follow me at Gullah Geechee on Twitter, at Gullah Geechee on Instagram, and definitely follow Gullah Geechee Nation on Facebook and GullahGeecheeNation.com. We wish we could sing some more with you, shout with you, and even dance. But this how it go. We have to shut off. We're so glad you took the time for coming in and zoom in on Gullah Geechee cultural heritage sustainability. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, UMN family. We're praying for you. Stay strong. Be blessed. Keep on in the protest. Peace and blessings, everybody.
Peace and blessings.